I was very sure that I knew all the concepts and I only need eGMAT to practice my questions and I don't need eGMAT for anything else. And the mentorship program, when it was offered to me, I was like, yeah, great. I mean, it's just going to help me get over the edge. But what is it that I'm going to learn in the mentorship? It's only basically I just need to do my practice questions and I'll be done with it. So this is the baggage that I came with, and I'm so happy. I think within the first 5 days, I realized that yes, I knew the concepts, but the concepts that eGMAT was trying to teach me were quicker, they were faster, and the accuracy levels were going to be way higher. So in the process, I actually did end up unlearning quite a few things in my quant.
Welcome, Vanshaj, to this very, very interesting debrief session. And this is, by the way, disclaimer, this is about the LM program and essentially the life cycle of a student in the LM program and how it took you from 690 to 740 in a very short period of time, right? So again, congratulations on the 740. Take me through your journey.
So yeah, like you mentioned, I was someone who came in with a 690. I remember my scores were Q46, V39, IR5. And that was my first attempt. So academically, I've always been a little strong. So getting that on the first attempt wasn't, it wasn't all that difficult for me. And I would say I came with a lot of baggage. But I realized that my potential was slightly more than what I'd got in my first attempt. And I had about 2 months for my journey. When I came to you guys, I think it was August end when I signed up with you, and my hard deadline was October end, and I eventually gave my exam exactly on the 30th of October, and I scored a 740, which is a Q49, so a 3-point improvement there, V41, so a 2-point improvement there, and an IR8, which is a 528, so that's a 3-point improvement there. So from my score went from 690 to 740, and I have no qualms in saying that I owe everything to the mentorship program at eGMAT.
Got it. Let's talk about your journey and that baggage bit. So talk to me about that baggage bit that you came with, because it sets the right context for this discussion.
See, I personally believe that it's easier to train someone for GMAT when that person's completely fresh and doesn't have preconceived notions. Or at best, if someone comes with a really bad score and realizes that he is weak in a lot of areas, so he needs to learn everything afresh. So the point is, eGMAT is not a self-learning thing where you understand things yourself. Rather, it's a guided process wherein there are concepts which you have to actually learn. So so I'm an ISC student from India, and we know how to solve sums. The problem is knowing how to solve sums in a limited time frame and using those so-called hacks to do it. So that is where the baggage came in, because after scoring a 690 and scoring a Q46, and I remember in one of my mocks I actually scored a Q49 also, I was very sure that I knew all the concepts and I only need eGMAT to practice my questions and I don't need eGMAT for anything else. And the mentorship program, when it was offered to me, I was like, yeah, great. I mean, it's just going to help me get over the edge. But what is it that I'm going to learn in the mentorship? It's only basically I just need to do my practice questions and I'll be done with it. So this is the baggage that I came with, and I'm so happy. I think within the first 5 days, I realized that yes, I knew the concepts, but the concepts that eGMAT was trying to teach me were quicker, they were faster, and the accuracy levels were going to be way higher. So in the process, I actually did end up unlearning quite a few things in my quant, in my mathematics, which I was apparently strong at, and relearn them in a better way. And I think that really pushed my score from a Q46 to a Q49.
Got it. So yeah, let's talk about your LM journey. You scored a 690. In fact, you had refunded the course before you came back to us. And then I remember you shared your ESR, right? So let's start off at that point. What was that discussion like? What did we talk about? What was the vision for you to kind of improve?
See, the vision to improve was quite sure. I mean, it was quite clear. I knew that I could manage a 700. Honestly, when I came to eGMAT the second time around, I was aiming for a 720 or a 730 because the business schools that I was targeting, that was the average that they had. Yeah. And I would have been really happy if I'd got a 720, 730 as well. A self-analysis about me as a person is, I kind of find it very difficult to write down and analyze my performance. I am fantastic if someone analyzes my performance and gives me feedback. I am not averse to listening to feedback and implementing it right away. The problem is that if I do a sum and I get it wrong and I see the solution, I tend to overlook the things which I got wrong because I was like, this was quite simple. I could have done this, or it's not that difficult. I'll probably just didn't get it right because of sheer luck. And that is where the analysis of the ESR came handy. I remember, so I knew my verbal was okay. It was, I mean, 39 is not a bad score for your first attempt. And for some reason, I always thought that my strongest is critical reasoning, followed by reading comprehension, and my sentence correction is the weakest. And when I got my ESR app, I couldn't make head or tail of it. And when Dhananjay helped me out to understand, actually, I had scored close to a 99th percentile on my sentence correction. I had done reasonably well in my reading comprehension, and my critical reasoning was actually where I was faltering. So that was an eye opener. In quant, I did not really understand how to dissect where was I going wrong. I mean, I'd always thought absolute values is the only thing that I can't get my head around. I can't wrap my head around. But it turns out that it was algebra and geometry put together, both of them, which I was quite weak at. So I clearly remember you telling me section by section. I didn't know up until the analysis of the ESR that every section can be subdivided into groups of four, with I believe, 8 questions each in quant and 9 questions each in verbal. And there needs to be a targeted strategy to try and understand what goes right, what is right, and what is wrong. What is the PSDS split? I mean, honestly, I thought it was just very ad hoc, like, just random, but turns out it's not, and it's very methodical. So like they say, there was a lot of data, and the beginning of the mentorship program was making sense out of that data, which I honestly was not able to do myself. But clearly you guys have the mastery over it.
Yeah, I think we've done it a lot. So, I mean, it just kind of makes my life easy. And since I've seen more than like 500 ESRs, it's easy to figure out what the issue is, right? And I think the vision for me was that quant is going to improve really quickly if I fix your algebra and geometry. And then again, I mean, when you fix something, you got to build it from the ground up. And I knew that as well. And kind of convincing you of doing that was my job as well. And I think I did my best to do that. So post the ESR analysis, how did the plans work out? How were the plans shared? What were the check-ins like?
Okay, so now this is where it gets really interesting. It's like a one-on-one rigorous training program. So before I came to eGMAT, I remember I did speak to a few trainers who kept saying that I need personalized attention. And I remember the most economical one was asking for $2,000 to do that. And in which he said that I will analyze each thing that you ask for, and I'll let you know what your weak areas are, and et cetera, et cetera. And till a certain extent, I was convinced that probably that's the only way, and doing GMAT and scoring a 700 plus is only possible if you spend that kind of money, or if you are naturally brilliant, which I'm not. I'm an average kid. So so the process was very well structured, I'd like to say. So I remember right at the beginning, I discussed what my target date for the exam is. So I put forward my expectation. My expectation was a 30-point improvement, I remember. And I said, this is the date that I need to achieve it by. And this is the time I have at hand. These are the number of hours a day I can spend. Please work around it and let me know. And I threw that challenge right at you guys, and you guys came back with the perfect answers. I can say that now because eventually it did work. And so yeah, I like the fact that we didn't like try to jumble up a lot of things together. We didn't try and do verbal and quant right off the bat. Although I had said that I have the time, I can do both things together. I remember you being very specific and very clear in saying that let's target your algebra and geometry first. Those are the areas which are the weakest, and those are the areas which will see the quickest improvement. I also remember very clearly at the beginning, I said, listen, I'm at a 690. I don't really care that much about the split. I'm very good at verbal, because you say that a 39 is not easy to get. So to get that 710, 720, do you think I should just focus more on verbal and stick to what I know in quant already? And I remember you very clearly telling me and you breaking it down and you taking me through the official GMAT website and showing how much of a difference will a 2 point improvement in verbal make, and how difficult would that be versus how much of an improvement a 2 point improvement in quant would, and how easier would that be for me. So I remember those things that you said; those really stuck with me. And when once you kept giving me the initially there were, I believe there were 5 day plans that you were giving me. So you gave me a
Yeah.
target to finish a particular module. You told me what all files to do, and you told me that I have to do it in the next 4 or 5 days. Initially, I was very lazy, I remember, and I did get a little bit of a scolding from you in a very friendly way when I didn't do anything for a week or so, but I really pulled up my socks after that. And I honestly, it was a culmination of you telling me what the targets are and the Quant 2.0 individual module files, wherein I do a diagnostic at the beginning of everything, and that file kind of tells you point blank that skip these 3 things, do these 2 things, you should be on your way. That's like someone actually understanding all your flaws virtually. So I don't know how you guys do it, but it's a fantastic product. And I mean, you with the pre-recorded videos and the algorithm that you have together is a no-brainer.
Got it. And then all of this, personal tutorship and all of that you get this for free, of course, with the
Yeah,
LM program,
absolutely. Yes.
which is insane because I mean that's what we are offering. But I'm glad you said that. So your plans were these milestone-based plans where, I said, this is your milestone, these are your tasks, this is the duration you finish it. And of course, keeping you honest is my job. I had to do that.
Absolutely. No, I really
And
appreciated it that you helped me pull my. So you were a part of the journey. You were not just another voice or a image on the screen guiding me. Like if I faltered, you pulled me up. So that's what else do I want, right?
yeah, true. So I think we moved from the first milestone, which was fixing your algebra and geometry. Now we moved and shifted our focus to, okay, now we have to maintain your verbal, which is at a 39, take it to the next level. How did we do that?
So yes, understanding the fact that critical reasoning was my weakest was very important, because honestly, between the 3 modules, and I'm sure this journey is going to be different for everyone, but I'll be very honest in sharing that I spent the maximum amount of practice time on critical reasoning. I only did the concept files there. Very, very rigorously, because the whole pre-thinking analysis bit, I was relying more on my instinct and general knowledge and just awareness.
Yeah.
And I realized that there is a method to this madness, right? So there is a way to actually attack these problems. And I remember going through the CR files quite extensively. And that I'm sure that really helped boost my score. I honestly wouldn't be able to give a figure to that, because unfortunately the GMAT online doesn't give you an ESR report. Though
Yeah.
I'm quite certain that I would have definitely improved in CR, because my performance in the mocks eventually showed that my CR had improved.
Yeah.
So that was there. RC honestly was not really a challenge for me, because
Yeah.
I have been used to reading quite a bit. I've solved extensive questions. And so the idea was to maintain my consistency in RC and SC, and improve on the CR. So that's what we did in verbal. And when we come, I'm sure at some point we will discuss about the cementing quizzes, because that is what actually nailed it, hammered it down for me in terms of verbal. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was I think was the plan that we used for my verbal
Yeah.
practice.
So I think what's very important here is, and this is for everybody who's watching this, that when you're at such a high level of ability, you don't necessarily always have to do the concept files. But then for something that's important as pre-thinking, where you were at the 65th percentile or so, we made a judgment call that, listen, I would rather have you understand this process and then jump into cementing. So take me through cementing. How was that process for SC and RC, where you were fab anyways? How did it make you better?
Okay, so I think the entire program or the entire offering that eGMAT has, I feel the cherry on the cake is the Scholarium and the cementing feature that you have. So for those of you who don't know about it and obviously might just see this review to understand, um, every tutor who is worth his money will tell you to maintain an error log. That is a no-brainer. I'm not saying eGMAT is the only people around who tell you how to do
True.
an error log. But what happens after you make an error log? Okay, so I know for a fact that that I am horrible at PS type questions in a certain section of quant.
Yeah.
Great. Now, how do I improve on that? I mean, one way is to go through all the possible material available on the planet and identify all the questions which might fall into the category of your weak areas. Or you go to eGMAT, you go to the Scholaranium, and you go create cementing quizzes. As the name suggests, the cementing quizzes are meant to hammer down or cement the concepts that you've already learned in the process files and the diagnostic quizzes and the sectional quizzes that you do at the end of every module. Now, the flexibility that the cementing quizzes give you is you get to choose the difficulty level that you want. So you can choose from easy, medium, or hard, or you could do a mix of two. You can choose the section that you want to target. So whether it's algebra, geometry, word problems, advanced topics, etc. You can do this in a real test time condition, which is you get exactly 2 minutes per question. And if you have a mentor like Dhananjay, you will be asked to shave off 1 minute from that also. Or you can do a relaxed mode wherein the aim is just to get the accuracy high. It's not about getting it in time. You could do an analysis where you do all the questions first, and then you get to know what your correct answers were and what your incorrect answers were. Or you could do a stepwise process wherein after every question, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, they tell you exactly what went wrong. So basically, this entire flexibility that you get, coupled with the fact that your mentor is already telling you that these are your weak areas, that kind of does it for you. Like, you don't really need anything. For example, through his experience, Dhananjay felt that I should shave off 1 minute on every question. I should do on 1 minute on the entire test. I should do 2 medium level quizzes with an accuracy level of 70% and 2 hard quizzes with an accuracy level of 55% or above, and then do a mixed bag quiz of medium and hard questions. And he felt that was the best way to push me over the numbers that I was already hitting. So this is what the entire concept of cementing is. And I remember once I finished one module, did the cementing, I went back, I finished another module, did the cementing again. But at that point, we don't leave cementing for the first module. Then we do a small quiz for the first and the second modules put together. Likewise, when you go to the third one, you do, after you do a cementing only for third, then you do a first, second, and third put together. And basically, the number of questions remains the same. It's just that you don't forget the old concepts. If you've done something about 10, 12 days ago, it's not that you forget about it because you kind of keep revising it. So this is what we did for quant. And it's obviously the same thing that we did for verbal. So that's
so now at this point, we're at the point where you fix your algebra and geometry. You've cemented whatever you knew. So we maintained verbal. Now we're going to the final stretch. What did we do?
Right. So the final stretch is the same section where you create cementing quizzes. You also have the option of creating custom quizzes.
Yeah.
Now, the objective of custom quizzes is like it says, it's customized. So what your objective is. For my journey, I was told to do a PTR and an ITR and a PTR. So an ITR was an intermediate test readiness test, and a PTR was a penultimate test readiness. The objective was, since I had a short period of time left, I remember I had about 10 odd days left before I wanted to do that. So every day I was given, then this is the time when I was actually given a day-by-day chart, because I wanted my progress to be maintained and monitored on a daily basis. I didn't have enough much time to lose. And I remember initially in the ITRs, I was made to do shorter quizzes, but under test conditions. So we started at about 20 questions for the quant section, 2022. Then we moved to 28, and then eventually we did a 32, which is an actual GMAT setting for doing that quiz. And similarly, we did the same for verbal. So the idea was build up your capacity or your capability to do those questions in a tested environment, but still not doing a full-fledged mock. So these were basically, I'd like to say, these are mini mocks that I did, sectional mini mocks. And I was able to kind of improve my scores quite a bit. When it came to the PTR, that the penultimate test readiness was something similar to this. We kind of did a wholesome sectional test that we did. So this was the next step after doing the cementing.
Got it. And test readiness was not easy, specifically for you. I mean, there were definitely like times where you actually did not get the target score. It was not like always smooth sailing. How did you kind of bounce back from a test readiness quiz that you didn't do well on, for example?
So I remember you telling me. So I got really flustered when. So I had, for some reason, on certain days, um, I kind of I mean, if the target was 70%, I was hitting 78%, and great. The next test, my target was 70%, and I would hit a 65%. And I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that why am I getting these things wrong? Because I've just gotten it correct, right? And it took me a while. To cut the long story short. I mean, it took me a while, and actually, I didn't realize this myself. My mentor kind of told me my problem was not getting the answers right. My problem was my time management, because I had started taking up so much time on certain questions. I kept looking at the clock towards the end. I got flustered and I started guessing, or I did not give my 100% to
Yeah.
some of the questions. And
Yeah.
that is why my accuracy was going down. So my problem was not just accuracy. My problem was actually my accuracy was going down because I wasn't managing my time very well. So each time that I got an ITR wrong, or I mean, I didn't get the right results on the ITR or the PTR, I remember going back to creating custom quizzes and doing the incorrect questions again. So a beauty of the product, again, of Scholarium is that you can create a whole lot of different scenarios for the kind of questions that you want to do. You can revise the questions that you've gotten correct. You can revise the questions that you've gotten incorrect. You can revise the questions that you have bookmarked all along your journey, be it during your practices or your test quizzes. So everywhere there is, whatever you need to go back to, it's quite easy to try and go back to that and understand what concepts were you not getting right. So that I remember I kept going back to that and kept revising those and kept improving each time. And once we analyzed that time management was really my main issue, and I figured that out, I think then it was a walk in the park after that.
Absolutely. I think that's something that extended to your mocks as well. And I think I really had to put a pin in it and say, listen, stop, this is not working. Can we just fix this before we move on? And of course, I think right before the test, you took another mock, you fixed it, you scored a Q49. And yeah, well, the rest is history. So essentially, this is what entails the entire LM program from start to end. Things pretty much stay the same. We diagnose your weaknesses. We create a milestone-based plan. We give you a proper plan right at the end to give you that actual push. And there's, of course, feedback along the way, and it becomes more intensive at the end. I think you also would have remembered it. I get a little I get very responsive towards the end, because I know that you would need those responses faster and in lesser time. So yeah, that's about it. Anything else that you would like to add, Vanshaj, about the LM program, about the product? I'd be happy to talk about that too.
No, I just basically want to wholeheartedly like let everyone know that um honestly, I remember taking the eGMAT mock, the Sigma mock, exactly about 4 months ago, and I was at a 410, right? And a lot of people would have given up on their MBA journey or their MBA dreams then. I also kind of did. I mean, I'll be very honest in saying that up until uh, 15 days or 20 days before the 690 attempt, which I did myself, I was also shortlisting schools which would take me at a 580, 610 level. And I thought that that is what my capability is. And honestly, with the 690, I thought I'm over the moon. I thought this is the best that I can get. I mean, I started at a 410. I've reached a 690. So this is, I mean, how much better can it get from there, right? I honestly came. Did not expect that eGMAT would be able to push my score too much. I was happy. I would have been superbly happy with a 710. A 730 would have been the moon. When I saw that 740 on the screen, it was disbelief. It was absolute disbelief. And my next thing was I just wanted to see whether I've improved sectionally or not. And I mean, just look at my verbal. A verbal, I didn't even try and improve. I was happy with the 39. And for some reason, this entire journey, I improved my verbal as well. And I mean, for someone who could not finish his real GMAT exam on time, I remember I had 5 minutes left for the last six quant questions during my 690 attempt, to someone who actually this time around finished the entire quant section. On my official mock right before the real exam. I finished my quant section 11 minutes before time and I scored a Q50. That was only possible because of the new way of attacking the questions and the time management that I learned with eGMAT. So hats off to you guys. You guys are doing something correct for sure.
Absolutely, something correct. So 1% correct. That's what I say. But I mean, we should have led with the fact that you scored, like, your improvement is phenomenal. It's like a good 330 points, and wow, that's quite a lot. And that of course should definitely go in your debrief as well. But it's lovely hosting you. I wish you all the success with those brilliant B schools you've applied to. Stay connected, and thank you so much, Vanshaj.
Thank you so much. And if there's anything I can ever vouch for you guys, wherever, I'm more than happy to do that.
I appreciate that.